Small Business Development Minister Lindiwe Zulu says she has an ally in Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba. She was referring to his remarks at the World Economic Forum yesterday, where the minister pledged to develop black business and the township economy. Devan Murugan spoke to her a short while ago about small businesses and her remarks on land expropriation.
Welcome back to Durban at the World Economic Forum. With me, the Minister of Small Business Development, Minister Zulu. Minister Zulu, thanks very much indeed for talking to us. I want to get straight into what the Finance Minister said yesterday with regards to channeling funds to townships, channeling funds to small businesses. That must have been music to your ears.
Absolutely, there was music to my ears, and this is something that I wanted to hear, and I want to continue hearing from all ministers whose mandate is to make sure that they assist us as a Department of Small Business Development to ensure that small and medium enterprises, entrepreneurship also becomes the next best thing in South Africa. So when the Minister of Finance refers to township and rural development, he said it in no uncertain terms, that we are not talking about only just your small spaza shops, your salons and all that. We are talking about real economic development in the township and rural areas where business is also brought to those township and rural areas. Obviously, what does that mean? That means that resources must be directed to ensuring that we grow the townships to also be economic hubs of South Africa.
Minister, the question that invariably comes up when we hear this sort of thing is how we do that. I mean, what are the nuts and bolts of a plan to actually boost up these businesses in these townships? Have we got a clear plan on that?
Absolutely. We've got the National Development Plan, which everybody must really look into at all times and make sure that we begin to implement it, because one of the biggest challenges we have as government is the implementation of the beautiful programs and policies that we have in place. And therefore, if we take the National Development Plan and break it down to national, provincial and local, if we can do that and make sure that even the 9-point plan, which identifies particularly the areas for economic development, whether it's the oceans economy, whether it's agriculture and agro-processing, whether it's the building of in the construction industry, if we can be able to move that to happen also in the townships without of course depriving other areas, but because the townships and rural areas must be transformed from being reserves only for labor. Business has to happen, and activities in business needs to happen in township, where, by the way, even the money has to circulate within the townships. That's why then our view is that we need to strengthen the local economic development offices that we have. We need to make sure that there's proper coordination between the national, provincial and local structures. Quite frankly, in short, we need to do the things that will make black people in particular in South Africa begin to see themselves in the real economy of the country.
One of the ways to do that, as you suggested yesterday, is to expropriate land without compensation. You support the idea. Some have asked as to whether or not this would have been the ideal platform to mention it, given the fact that investors get scared when that type of talk starts emerging.
Well, I think that investors understand very well that economic transformation in South Africa is also for their own good. Because the more you have stability, the more you have peace, the more you have a sense that ordinary citizens see themselves within the economy of the country. It's good for investors too, because investors are not people who should not take an interest in what is happening in the country from a transformation point of view. And every platform is the right platform for us, because we want to tell the world that we do have policies that have not changed because there's a new Minister of Finance. We want to tell the world that all the plans that we put in place 3 years ago that we are now implementing will not change because now we have a new Minister of Finance. And besides, the new Minister of Finance belongs to a collective that takes collective decisions about how to run the country. But more than anything else, everybody, your ordinary people, they know one thing for sure. Let's deal with poverty, let's deal with unemployment, let's deal with inequality, so that every South African citizen can see themselves and they can have hope. So this platform here is actually the right platform, because we don't want to be ambiguous about what we are about. This is a platform where we need to clearly spell it out. What are our policies? What are our plans? And our plans, by the way, go beyond just South Africa. That's why we are here today, because this World Economic Forum Africa, we are also looking at Africa as a continent, looking at us as South Africa as part of the continent. That's what we are about.
You speak about policy, but the minister in the presidency, Jeff Gigaba, saying yesterday that on the land question, that's not really policy as yet. So what's your vision going forward, and how do we execute that?
Well, the good thing is that the governing party, the African National Congress, is going to a policy conference. So all these things that are on the table are going to be ironed out there, so that ultimately we speak with one voice. Ultimately, we all understand what we're talking about. And then come December, the ANC will have its national conference, where all these policies that will be decided upon at the policy conference will be endorsed. All we want to say is that everything that we do needs to address the biggest challenges. Our people are hungry. They are hungry for economic opportunities. We need to make sure that we do that. Our people want to see progress from an economic point of view. We need to implement the policies that we have long put in place of radical economic transformation, and people shouldn't be scared of radical economic transformation. It all just means let us bring on board people who were excluded. For many years they were excluded. If we want the future to be bright for South Africa, we need to do just that.
All right, Minister, my final question. You were very upset for a couple of years now when it came to the budget of your particular ministry. Are you somewhat more confident that you might be getting the funds to operate as you want to in the future?
Look, the Minister of Finance has been speaking to the issue of small and medium enterprises and the support for SMMEs and cooperatives. I didn't ask him to do that. He did that because he understands that small and medium enterprises can be the backbone of this economy of South Africa. And entrepreneurship, actually, as I sit here 3 years down the line, I can see that people are waking up to the reality, to the fact that it is possible for them to start their businesses. All we need to do is to create a conducive environment for them, part of which is access to finance. Now, if black companies are forming themselves almost everywhere and they want to grow, and you don't give them the opportunity of accessing that finance, what are you about? So the Minister of Finance has understood that long before he even became a Minister of Finance. So I am sure that here I have an ally who really understands that if we can give focus to giving small and medium enterprises the kind of support that they deserve, the economic growth of South Africa can change.
Minister of Small Business Development, Minister Zulu, thanks very much indeed for talking to us.
Thank you.
And that's it for now from Durban at the World Economic Forum. It's back to Johannesburg.